Okay, got one more minute. If you haven't already, go ahead and pull up the spreadsheet that I sent you yesterday, or the blank spreadsheet I sent you yesterday, or this morning actually. I think I sent it about 5:30 this morning. I had 12:30, so the rest of our folks, I'm not sure whether they're trying to figure out about the room change, but I obviously sent it out as a calendar reminder as well as an email and put signs up, so you really should be here. Okay, so today, what we're going to do, we've got a model that we're going to, once again, kind of fill in and go through. How do we think through the logic? What are the different steps or the different functions that potentially we're going to use? And specifically, we're going to create a fixed and variable rate mortgage model. All right? Now, those of you that were in the real estate finance class this morning, or you have taken me for real estate finance before, we've talked about a lot of this, and we're going to talk about some of it again, maybe a little bit repetitive, but nonetheless, hopefully it helps it to sink in that much more. So we've got a number of input variables here for our little model. We've got the loan amount, annual interest rate, loan term in years, which will help us to calculate our monthly payment. Then we will be putting in loan origination fees or discount points, monthly administrative servicing fees, and then prepayment penalty fees, and then determining when the prepayment occurs at the end of what month. And then from that, we'll calculate our effective cost of borrowing or our lender's yield. Okay? So for those of you that, once again, were in the real estate finance class this morning, this is a direct link or parallel to what we did. Okay? And like I said, we'll kind of go back through and explain some of the pieces again if we need to help us work through it. Now, what I've given you is obviously the blank spreadsheet via email, and then I've given you a handout. Okay? Now the handout, this is in essence sort of to help us check to see if the model's working. Okay? Once we've built all the different component steps. So what we'll be doing is just kind of entering in some of the basic information, and then hopefully, like I said, sort of be checking it as we sort of go along. So let's go ahead and start with the easy part. The easy part is putting in the things that we absolutely know, specifically the loan amount. So $100,000, type that in, okay? Interest rate, 10%. Term of the loan, 30 years. Okay, leave the monthly payment blank for the moment. Skip on down, 4% for loan origination fees, $35 a month for monthly administrative fees, 4% for prepayment penalty, and the prepayment occurs at the end of month 15. Okay? All right. Everybody got those pieces of information in? I'll give you a couple of seconds. And can you guys see that in the back okay, or? Okay, all right. All right, so from last week, you should, on your own, be able to do the first one, the monthly payment. So go ahead and see if you can do this. It's a payment function. Equal payment, open parentheses, and then use the information right above it. See if you can make it work. It should come out to obviously $877.57.
If there's no future value, we hit just 0? Or?
Exactly. So those of you that are still struggling with it, potentially talk with one of your neighbors, see if they can help you out if you have a little bit of a challenge.
And it should be 877.
Should match up with what's on the handout, $877.57. Okay, so once again, make sure you get the model that I sent you via email this morning, open. And specifically, what you should have done by this point is type in the loan amount, interest rate, and term, and then the loan origination fees, servicing fees, prepayment penalty fees, and the prepayment occurs at the end of month 15. So that's all you should have typed in, other than on your own, try to see if you can use the formula we used last week for calculating the monthly payment for the cell here, cell D6, using the information that's given to you there. And once again, the solution, obviously, on this sheet of paper on the handout, $877.57. And you need to make it a positive number. Okay, so just out of curiosity, how many of you have got that part done? Okay, 2 of you. Good. Give you a couple more minutes to finish that up. Everybody get settled. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So let me take roll lower. Okay, Dan is not here. Rose is here. Gordon's here. Rose is absent. Gibbons is absent. Janelle's here. Robert's. Okay, so we're missing Kristen, Michelle, Dustin, and I know that Jarvis is not going to be here, and then Christina, and Gail. All right, so everybody get the payment done, yes? Okay, once again, if you haven't gotten it, work with one of your neighbors, get it done.
The type is 0?
0.
As long as I'm Oh.
I don't have a mouse. I brought a mouse to make it easy. I have no idea.
Okay. So what you're going to do, if you haven't done it, equal PMP, open parentheses, take your rate, D4, divided by 12, comma, your your number of periods, which is the 30, you multiply it by 12, comma, and then capture your present value of 100,000, and that's really all you need. You don't really need to worry about the future value or the type. And there it is, 877.57. Whoops, hello. Yeah. Okay, now it's going to give you initially, if you've got it just like that, it's going to give you a negative number, okay? In order to make it a positive number, all you need to do is go in between the equal and the PMT and put a negative sign there, and that'll reverse the sign, so now it's a positive number. Okay, everybody got it? Here it is up on the screen, just in case. We'll see if I can blow that up a little bit more. I don't know if we can blow it up a whole lot without cutting everything off the page here. And once again, all we've done is put in the given information with a $100,000 loan, 10% interest rate for 30 years, and then we've put the formula in for the payment, for the monthly payment there, and then we've simply typed in the given loan origination fees, administrative fees, prepayment penalty fees, and the prepayment time. Okay, everybody got it? All right. Okay, we need to have that one piece done before we can move on. Everybody got it? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So we're going to skip past the lender's yield because we're going to deal with that at the very end. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to build in Excel what we built this morning just by hand and using the calculator, but we're going to build it in Excel using obviously the different functions within Excel to be able to have a amortization schedule. Now, the normal amortization schedule, as we built this morning, we start off with the period number in the column 1, we've got the beginning balance, we've got the scheduled payment, and then I think in this one I've actually put the principal repaid, whereas maybe this morning I did it the interest paid, but either way, it doesn't really matter which one of those comes first. But we've got the principal, we've got the interest, ending balance, and then something that's new for this model relative to what we did this morning is this is going to have an interest rate column, a lender cash flow column, and effective cost of borrowing column. Okay, so but for right now, let's ignore those three. Okay, right now, let's just focus on the normal part of the amortization schedule. Okay, so the very first piece that we're going to begin with is the beginning balance of the loan. All right, that is simply going to be a pull down number from above, the basically cell whatever it is D3. So we can just simply type in D3 as our cell reference. Oops, or sorry, equal D3. All right, and then that will populate that with 100,000. Okay. Everybody good with that? All right. Now, for the moment, the scheduled payment, we're just simply going to use what's above, which is in cell D6. So equal D6. Okay? Or once again, for cell C17, all we're doing is just simply copying down cell D6. Okay? Now then. Okay, so we got those two just pulled down from above. Yes? Okay, so let's get over here to the principal, interest, and ending balance. All right? So, for the interest paid column, let's do it first. How do we calculate interest paid? All All right? If you remember from this morning, or just once again, how do we do it? You're simply going to take the beginning balance times the interest rate of 10% divided by 12. Okay, does everybody see that? So once again, taking the beginning balance times the interest rate of 10%, and then because it's on a monthly basis, we're dividing it by 12, and when we hit enter, we get 833.33. Okay, so that is the interest for that first month. Everybody with me? Yes? Okay. Now we're going to go over here to principal repaid. Okay. To get that, that is simply going to be the difference between the scheduled payment and the interest paid. So all you're going to do is take the $877.57, subtract out the $833.33, and that's going to give you $44.24 as your principal repaid. Okay? Everybody good? Okay? And then our ending balance. Now, as I said this morning, but also now, to calculate your ending balance, you are simply going to take your beginning balance and subtract out the principal repaid. So, in this case, B17 minus D17. So you should end up with 99,955.76. Everybody good with that? Okay. Anybody not good with that? Okay. Now, so this gives us, for a fixed rate mortgage, the first month of information for our amortization schedule. Okay? Now what we're going to do, we're going to use a couple of different sort of copy functions and paste functions, but also we're going to be introducing the concept of what is referred to as a static cell reference versus a dynamic cell reference. Okay? Because, and you'll see what I mean, and we'll talk about it as we're doing it. Okay? Because what we want to do is we want to basically copy all of that stuff down. Okay? And down all the way to basically month 360. Okay? But we can't just simply do that because we've got to make a couple of adjustments to how those formulas are set up. And I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so first of all, it's going to be easier if we really start with month number 2 whenever we're copying down, and you'll sort of see why. Because month number 2, the beginning balance for month number 2 is what? It's the ending balance for month number 1. Yes? So what we can do is simply hit equal, and then the cell reference for that is F17. Okay? And then just hit equal. Alright? So it should pop up there. Alright? Now, let's say, okay, we've got our 877.57, and this is a fixed rate mortgage, so basically that number should be the same all the way down the page. Yes? Okay? So there's a lot of different ways of doing this. One way, given that it's fixed and it's never moving, is we can create what is called a static or fixed cell reference. And to do that, you go in and you put a little $sign in front of the D, you put a $sign in front of the 6, and what that is doing is it's basically saying whenever you copy that cell with that information, the equal $D, $6, is it's going to keep the reference to that cell fixed in that particular location, so whenever you start copying down, it doesn't start moving it around the page. Okay? And you'll see if you try to do it without doing that, it all gets screwed up. So the whole purpose of the static cell reference is to keep something fixed in location. Let me show you without that just for a second. Okay? So let's just say that I had just tried to copy down, okay? And I just like copy down like this, a couple of cells, okay? What it's doing is it's basically going to the cell right below it for the next value, which in this case is 0. And then it's going to the next cell, which the value is 4%. Well, that's not what we're trying to copy. We're trying to copy just the 877.57, that particular cell, and keep it constant. That's the reason why we're going to be using that static cell reference. So if we go back, once again, fix it the way it's supposed to be, put the $sign there. Now, when we go and we copy, doing the same thing that we just did, you see it keeps it fixed in the location, all right? So it's just the 877.57. If we copy it all the way down the page, it's going to stay with that 877.57. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay? Okay, so let's go over here to the interest paid column here for a second. Let's look at it. So same sort of thing is going to apply here, but yet we're going to have one cell reference that's going to be dynamic, meaning it's going to change, and the other one we're going to want to keep fixed. Because look, we're going to want this cell reference, the B17, to obviously adjust each month. So we're going to leave it alone. In other words, it's going to be a dynamic cell reference. We want it to change as we copy down. But the D4, which is the interest rate, we want that cell reference to stay fixed so that when we copy down, it doesn't move. Okay, does that make sense? I'm going to keep asking that over and over. Make sure that that obviously sinks in. So to make that change, we're simply going to go in, put the $signs in front of the D and in front of the 4. Okay? All right? Now, when we copy, I'm going to go ahead and copy down just a couple of cells. All right? Now, it's not going to have all the values because we haven't put the other values in yet. All right? But you should, if you copy that down, it should be 832.96. Okay, if you did it correctly, and then the other ones are going to be blank for the moment. Okay? Everybody still with me? Okay. All right. Now, for the principal repaid column, let's take a look at it. What the values are in that cell. Okay, those are both values that we want to change as we copy down. We've got C17 minus E17, so as we copy down the page, we want those to change, so we don't need to do any adjustments to those, okay? So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take that column, go ahead and copy it down a couple of cells. Now once again, it's going to give us the correct value for cell number 2, but the others are going to be wrong because we haven't filled in the rest of the information yet, okay? All right. So now we need to go over to our ending balance column. All right? So with our ending balance column, we're going to take a look at what the formula is there. All right? And it is simply B17 minus D17. So yet again, this is another situation where we're going to have just the dynamic cell reference. We don't need to worry about adjusting anything, so we can copy it down a couple of cells. Okay? All right, once again, it's correct for obviously the second one, but the third and the fourth one, obviously it's not because we haven't filled in anything in here for our beginning balance. Okay? Is everybody still with me? Now, because for month number 2, we already have trained it to go over and capture the beginning balance from the previous month, we should be able just to drag that down, okay, without having to do any sort of an adjustment. So let's copy down a couple of, okay, so now it looks like everything for those first 4 months, everything is good to go. If you did everything that I did and you just copy down for a couple of months, your numbers should match up. If they don't, you did something wrong. You need to figure out what you did. So I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to figure out if you aren't matching up completely, with what I've got in terms of the numbers there for the first 4 months, do what you need to do. Talk to your neighbors.
Can I get a copy?
And now, if you're wrong, what I would do if I were you is to start out and see basically where the first number on your amortization schedule is wrong, because that's the point to trace it back to. Okay, so if all of your first month is right, good. Take it to your second month. If all the second month is right, then it should be just a really minor problem. But take a look. Okay, so just out of curiosity, how many of you got everything correct so far? Okay, so most everybody. Okay, good. All right, now, if you've done it up to this point correctly, you now should be able to just highlight all of month 4 and then just copy all the way down to month 360. Just drag it all down. And once you're down there, then just release. That. And there we go. And if you did it correctly, month 360 should look like this, and you should end up with a 0 balance. Okay, so at this point, we have completed just the simple fixed rate mortgage model, okay? In terms of just the normal basic functionality of loan amount, interest rate, and loan term, and then the amortization schedule. Okay? Is everybody comfortable with that? Now, if you want to, this would be probably an actuality. Let's do this. I'm going to go ahead up here, because none of these are doing anything. We're going to zero out or delete basically all of this information about loan origination fees and everything else. Because none of that's going to affect the model below. All right, right now would be a good time to save the model.
And this is a fixed model.
This is just a fixed model without any bells and whistles. Okay? This is the plain Jane. I would just call this maybe fixed rate version 1 or something. There's a method to my madness on this, trust me. Because this was easy. What we're about to do is going to be complicated. So go ahead and save this one. So now, with this one, let's just play around with it just a little bit. If you've got everything working, let's just see what happens. All right, so let's stress test it just a little bit. So loan amount, let's just say we change that to $500,000. We change the interest rate to 6%. Change the loan term to 15 years. Okay, so $500,000, 6%. 15 years. Okay, so first of all, let's just make sure that our monthly payment is correct, $42.19.28. Okay, and then that obviously populates down here correctly. And then if we sort of go down the page, let's just pull up, make sure that you're matching up with those numbers. So just as an example, in month 15, your balance should be $473,288.26. If it is, then you can feel pretty rest assured your model is okay. But let's go ahead and scroll down to, in this case, month, excuse me, 180. Okay, and let's take a look at month 180. All right, so this is where the loan pays off. All right, at month number 180. So you have a 0 balance at 180. then you end up with this negative balance from that point forward, and the reason for that is the loan is paid off, okay? We can just ignore everything below month 180, all right? So all that other information from month 180 down to 360 is not relevant because we're dealing with a 15-year loan, okay? Yes? Okay, now, okay, everybody, now this is mission critical. Has everybody got this one, or, well, whatever I had it set up as a $100,000 loan, get this version saved. Okay, go back over here. So 100,000, 10%, 30 years. Okay, everybody's got that version saved. Everybody matches up 100%, yes? Because we're about to, what we're going to be doing from this point forward is we're going to be basically going back and replacing a bunch of information and changing it. So make sure that you're good with this, that you've saved it. Okay? Let me give you a couple of minutes. No, just but first save, once you did that first save, just make sure we're just back to this part. Okay. All right, so now what we're going to do is we are going to incorporate a couple of different things, and we're going to start off with the interest rate. Specifically, this column over here I've got for the interest rate. All right. So, here's what we're going to do. We're going to create this model so that you can change the interest rate for any month or all months, and then it will change and change the monthly payment, change the payoff term, everything, okay? So, here's what you're going to start with. Once again, you've got the handout. All you're going to do is you're going to hit equal, and then you're going to go up and you're going to capture that 10%, okay? So that's going to be cell reference D4, okay? But we are not going to do what we did before, so don't make it static, okay? Don't make it static because we're going to do a little trick. All right. So here's what we want to do. And you'll see the method of my madness on this, all right? So right below that 10% that we have cell referenced above, what I want you to do is type in equal, and then I just want you to move the arrow key up, and you're going to capture that, which is cell G17. Everybody see it? Yeah. Okay, then you're going to hit enter. Okay. Now you should be able to now take that, just that bottom one, not the one on top, but the one there's at the bottom, copy it all the way down the page. Let's just see if it works. All the way down to month 360. Okay, and it filled it in. Okay, now what you're saying is, why did you do it that way? Okay, let me show you. Okay, so first of all, let's just go up to the interest rate input. All right, so whenever I type in, let's say a new interest rate, let's say 7%. Okay, it changes it all the way down the page. Okay, you're saying, okay, so what? Now, this is the part, though, where it begins to matter. What if, what if we wanted to change, let's say, month 3? We want to go from a 7% interest rate to an 8% interest rate. Then all you would have to do is go over here, type in 8, and then from that point forward, it's 8%. Does that make sense? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Now, but here's the problem. Once you've done that, if you want to get it back to the 7%, then you've got to go and then obviously copy that cell reference from above to put it back to where it was. Okay? Does that make sense? Yes or no? One more time. Okay? So, let's say that we want to change, starting in month 5, we want to go to 9%. So in month 5, we type 9%, and you see from that point forward, it's 9%. Well, let's say that 2 months later, we want to go to 11%. Okay? So what it's doing is it's simply cell referencing what's above it unless you hard code a number there. All right? So in this case, we're 7% for the first 4 months, 9% for the next couple of months, and then 11% from thereafter. Does that make sense? Yes or no? Now, but if we want to reset it, so that once again, we start sort of fresh, then we've got to go up to where we last changed it, and then just simply equal, and then go up 1 cell to the previous cell, and then do that again. And there we are. We're back to where we were. Normal. Okay? Everybody kosher with that? Yes or no? So whenever, here's my point. I'm going to be giving you at least one problem on the quiz that will say you're going to have a fixed interest rate for maybe this set of months. And then you're going to have a new interest rate for this set of months. And then you're going to have a new interest rate from this set of months. Okay, you follow me? So you're going to go in order sequentially for those changes. Okay, make sense? All right. Okay, so let's do this. We're going to, just for our purposes, we're going to have that first month at 7%, the next month at 8%, and the next month, let's say, at 9%. And then from that point forward. Okay? There's, once again, method of my madness here. All right? Go over to our scheduled payment for month or period 2. Okay, right here. The 665.30. Now, the way your model currently is, that is simply a fixed cell reference to above. You know, what it was originally. Yes? Okay? But here's what happens. Whenever you change your interest rate on an adjustable rate mortgage, your payment changes. Does that make sense? Because, in essence, if you've got a higher interest rate, you're going to have a higher payment. Okay? Does that make sense? Yes or no? Okay? So, what we're going to do is we're going to calculate the payment in this column to reflect whatever the current interest rate is. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes? Okay? So, this is about where it's going to start to get a little nasty, okay? In the sense of the logic that you're going to have to follow through to make this happen. So first, let's just kind of go back and we're going to erase what is there. Matter of fact, we just kind of, I'm not going to erase all of them, but I just want to kind of erase a few of them just so we can kind of play around here. All right. So, what we're going to do is do equal payment, open parentheses. Now we're not going to mess with the first one because we're going to make the assumption that whatever we put the initial interest rate in above is obviously going to be reflected over here. Everything's going to be fine for that first month, but it's from that point forward that we need to make any adjustments. Does that make sense? Okay. So, equal payment, rate. Well, what do you think we're going to use?
8%.
Yep, or that particular column, that particular row, okay? And then we're going to take that, divide it by 12, okay, comma. Now then, number of periods. This is the one that is saying that we're going to deal with the logic on, okay? Let's think about this for a second. All right. We have a total of how many months in the loan?
360.
Of course, we'll pick one that does it right.
It's just saying months.
Okay, so the total is 360. All right, now, so if we were calculating the payment for month 1, it would be 360 months, yes? Yes?
Yeah.
Okay, but if we're calculating the payment for month 2, it's really only 359. Okay, so that is going to be the number of periods, it's 359. But we can't just hard code that. Why can we not hard code that? Because what if we have a loan that's 180 months or 120 months? So we can't just hard code it. So this is where, once again, some of the fun logic has to come into play. And there's more than one way to get there. It's just a question of how do we get Excel to basically use 359 for that month, and then the next month use 358, and the next month 357.
Are you going to just create a function? Just minus.
Not necessarily a function, but a formula. Okay? And so think about how we might do that. All right? Well, what do we sort of know in terms of the total number of periods? Well, we know that up here, we've got a 30-year loan. And they're all going to be monthly, so we can go ahead and multiply that by 12. But what number is that going to give us? 360. So what we want to do is minus 1, but the problem is that's not going to work for, yeah. So here's what I would suggest we do. We basically take that and we do plus 1, minus the period number.
Can we also just use the cell above it?
You could, but this is more fun. Okay, so what that will do is basically that's saying 360 plus 1 is 361 minus 2, which is, okay, and it also would work if it's like 180 months, then it would be basically 15 times 12 would be 180 plus 1, 181 minus 2. Okay? All right. Now, the present value is just simply the beginning balance for that particular period. Okay? So it'll be 18. All right? And then there is no future value, is no type. So let's just see if that, and we need to make that a positive number.
What did you do for the positive number part?
Okay, hold on one second. Let's make sure that everything's working right. Double check. Yep. Okay, we're right.
Plus sign.
Yep. Or well, actually, put a negative in there. Okay. So what you're going to do is you're going to put a negative sign in between the equal and the payment. You're going to put a negative sign right there, and that'll change it from being a negative number to a positive number. Okay? Everybody matching up? Okay? So once again, you should end up, if you have the interest rate over here on the right-hand side as 8%, you should have $733.66 as your payment amount. Everybody? Yes? If you don't, once again, get some help from your neighbor. Okay? All right. Now, let's take a look at this. All right? Now the question is, can we just simply copy this straight down without making any adjustments? Well, let's look at it and see. The G18, which is the interest rate, well, we want it to copy down, so that's okay. We can leave it alone. The 12 is obviously fixed. But the D5, which is up above, which is the number of periods, we don't want that to change from D5. So we're going to need to make that a static cell reference by going in $D, $5, okay? And then the times 12 plus 1 minus A18, that's okay, comma, B18, that's okay. So we should be good. Okay, has everybody got that one change? Okay, I mean, it won't change your answer there, but to see if you did it correctly, let's just copy down just a couple of rows. Okay? Okay? Now, we've still got to make a couple of other little adjustments. We've got to make an adjustment to our interest paid column because our interest is still being calculated on the interest above. Okay? So that's why we're going to, essentially, we're going to be off a little bit. So let's take a look here. All right. So we can start with this one. Let's highlight it here for a second. So here we are using the interest rate above divided by 12. So what we're going to do is we're going to go in here. Yep, yep. The part that is $4, we're going to replace that with G17. Okay?
Non-static, right?
Okay. So once again, this is we're editing cell E17. We're editing cell E17. Okay? So E17 is now equal B17 times, open parentheses, G17 divided by 12, close parentheses. Everybody got it? Now, let's go ahead and take the bottom corner of it, copy down just a couple of rows, okay, so that'll adjust everything in terms of the interest paid, okay? Everybody matching up?
Can you repeat?
Okay, all I did was just copy down for the interest paid column. So once you've got, once again, the formula of the equal B17 times G17 divided by 12, then you're just copying down. Okay? All right? Now we can leave the principal paid column alone because there's nothing there that's changing or being modified. And the ending balance, nothing there that's being changed or modified. So what we've effectively accomplished what we set out to do, which was to match up the interest rate change to those other columns. But we're not done because obviously we've only copied down, or at least I've only copied down to month 4. We need to go ahead and copy now, probably starting at month 3 or 4, and then just copy straight down. Okay, so I'm just going to do this. I'm just going to take month 3, I'm going to highlight all the way across, okay, and then I'm going to grab the bottom right hand corner and then just drag down and go all the way down to month 360. Okay, and I think I did something wrong. What did I screw up?
If you just extend column 8.
No, it's not that. I screwed up. I did something else. Hold on. Oops. What did I do? That's going to be okay.
Oh, I think it's just the column, it's too thin.
No, it's not that. It's something else.
What are you looking at, the interest rate flowing?
No. Hold on. Just relax.
I think when you grab the whole row, I think something got messed up.
Yeah, so he was changing it into just normally, and then one of the formulas was different.
Well, did it work for you?
Yeah.
I did, because I pulled them all down, yeah, individually by the row, or by the column, and not by the full row. Because I think somehow that screwed something up. So if you just go back to your previous steps.
Okay. Let's erase all of this then. It should have got it though. It's weird. didn't.
Sounds like you started from row 3.
Yeah, so, and then what I did was I just took, yeah, and I just double clicked. Well, no, I didn't pull them all across like that.
Well, let me just, hold on. Ah, this is so sensitive. Okay. I'm gonna just do it for a little while. No, see, I've got something I screwed up.
Yeah.
I think it's because you put just 8 and 9% in the interest rate column.
Okay, maybe, yep, that was it. Yep, I should have left that alone. Okay. And so, yep, that's what it is. Okay. That's what it was. Okay, let me copy the rest of this. Okay, and then the interest rate, copy it back down. Okay, now everything's back. Okay. It was because the problem was I had the fixed cell reference, or not fixed cell, but I had a dynamic cell reference in the interest rate column, and whenever I copied and pasted, it screwed it up. That was my fault. Okay, so this is kind of put this back to previous months. Okay.
So you want us to set it all 7, or?
Well, I'm just doing that just for the second, just to make sure that everything is okay. All right. So now, what did we have? We had a 7 for, what was the?
Just the first one.
First month, the next month was what?
8%,
and then the rest.
Okay, just making sure. All right, so are we matching up now?
Yeah, mine is matching up.
Okay. Sorry about that. Double check my last, make sure everything paid off at the end of the, yep, 0 balance at the end. Okay, that's all we wanted to shoot for.
So what exactly needed to change?
I'm sorry?
What exactly needed to change?
I'm sorry? What?
It was just the interest rates.
Is there any change?
No, the only change, okay, we'll go back over just to make sure. All right. What was screwing mine up? Dayon, what was screwing mine up was I had a hard cell reference, it was just 9% without it copying from above, and then that was basically not copying down properly, and so that was screwing up everything. Everything to the left was perfectly fine.
Okay.
So everything should be working now. Okay, all right. So what this allows us to do now, as we've just demonstrated, is we can go in now and change the interest rate, obviously month by month, and our monthly payment will reflect that, our ending balance will reflect it, and then ultimately the payoff at the end, everything will be completely updated and reflected. Okay? Is everybody cool with that? Yes? Okay. Now, we've got a couple of more columns and some more data to potentially have to fill in here. Okay? So, is everybody matching up with this? Yes?
Yeah, can you scroll down
You
the
changed
last
it back
row?
to 7.
I did all 7?
Well, I just put it back to all 7s just for the moment,
Right.
but you don't have, I mean, if you put it all 7s, all the way down, your very last row, whoops, all 7s, your very last row, you'll have a 0 balance, but yet your payment will be $665.30, and the principal will be $661.44, and your interest $386.
So are we putting it to 7?
Yes. All I did was I just reverted back to 7 just to test it, make sure everything's working. That's all I did. Okay, now. Okay, let's go back up to the top. Okay, let's start off with the loan origination fees. Okay, all right. And on your handout, I've got those listed at 4%. So let's talk about what those are for a second. All right. board just a little bit. So kind of on the right hand side, I can see. All right. So with loan origination fees, this is a way that the lender makes money up front whenever you get a loan. All right? And typically, it's going to be a fee that is based on a percentage of the actual loan amount itself. So in our case, we have a $100,000 loan. The loan origination fees are given to us at 4%. So that simply means that our loan origination fees are going to be $4,000 for this loan. So that means what's going to happen is when we get this loan, you come to me, I'm the lender, you're going to write me a check for $4,000. I'm going to use that money, theoretically, to pay for all of my internal costs associated with putting this loan together for you, all the paperwork, processing, due diligence, whatever I do internally as a lender. Theoretically, that's what that money is supposed to be used for. Now, as a practical matter, there may not be really that many costs associated with it. The lender's just charging you this fee so they can make some extra money, okay? Now, the way, though, that you have to think about this is you are writing me, and this is critical that you, especially those people that weren't here this morning, that you pay attention to this, because this is one of the logic pieces that has to make sense to you. You are writing me a check for $4,000 for this loan origination fee. In turn, I am giving you a loan of $100,000. Yes? Yes? Bob the heads up and down. Yes. Okay. But if you're writing me a check for $4,000 and I'm giving you $100,000, what is really my net dispersal? How much am I really, truly out of pocket as a lender? $96,000. Okay? So the reality is I am only dispersing as a lender truly $96,000, because $4,000 is being paid into me at the time the loan is originated as loan origination fees, and then I am basically giving you back, while I'm giving you back a loan for $100,000, I'm really only giving you back a net of $96,000. Okay? This is mission critical that you understand that. Yes? Okay. Now, okay. We go over here to what I'm going to call the lender cash flow column. All right? And I need to lower my screen a little bit so you can see it. Okay. The lender cash flow column. Now, what this column is, this is a way for me, as the lender or as the borrower, to track what are the actual cash outflows and cash inflows from the lender's perspective. Okay? So, that number for this first line, and it's not a mistake because that's time period 0. Okay, that's the reason why it's up one cell from everything else. Whereas the cell right below it, that's going to be month 1. Does everybody follow that? Just like on your calculator, you're going to have a cash outflow at time period 0, and then cash inflows from that point forward. So from the lender's perspective, their initial cash outflow for this loan is what? $96,000. Now, how do we mathematically get there with the information that we've got so that it automatically calculates it? Okay, so think about that for a second. You're going to start with, obviously, the loan amount.
Okay, calm down.
You gotta go to
Yeah, calm
the
down
next
one.
one, yeah. The next cell.
No, I'm right.
No, because you are,
No, I know where I'm at.
okay, sorry.
No, this is what I was just saying. This is time period 0. This is month 1. Yeah, trust me, I know where I'm at. Okay. All right, so D3, which is the 100,000, but that's not their cash outflow. Okay, so what we're going to do
minus,
We're gonna basically, you can do this a couple of different ways, all right? One way would be to simply say, all right, let's take and multiply this by 1 minus 4%. Okay? Now let's think about what that's doing here for a second. It's going to give us 96,000. But let's just take a look at that for a second. Okay, mathematically, all we're doing is we're saying, take the 100,000, multiply it by 1 minus 4%. What is 1 minus 4%? 96%. So we're just simply multiplying basically D3 times 96%. Okay? Now, if we want to make that a negative number, which we do because it's a cash outflow, we need to go back over here and before the D3, just put a negative sign there. Okay? So negative D3 times 1 minus D8 close parentheses. There we go. 96,000 negative. Okay? We good, Lewis?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that is our initial cash outflow from the lender's perspective. Yes? Okay. Now, how are we doing so far? Okay. So, what is their cash inflow for the first month? The payment. Pure and simple. It's just a payment. Okay? It's all lumped together. Principal and interest, it's just a payment. Okay? So, we could just go over here. This is going to get really complicated really quick, but first of all, we're just going to do it simply. All right? So we're going to go over here and we're just going to simply say, that's the payment. Everybody with me on that? Yes, no, possibly could be. Okay, all I did was just cell reference. We're not going to keep it that way for long because we're going to make it much more complicated. Okay? But right now, we're just simply copying the cell reference over here so that I can kind of talk you through the logic of about what we're about to do. Okay? All right. Let's also, for the second month, let's do the same thing. And I'm doing this on purpose. Once again, this is about teaching you to get through this and understand what we're doing. Okay? All right. So, the lender has a cash outflow at time period 0 of that amount. They've got a cash inflow, cash inflow. Yes? Okay. Now, if the borrower, this is the part where it's about to get really messy, really quick, okay? So if the borrower chooses to pay off the loan, what is going to be the lender's cash flow?
The balance.
The balance. Yes? Does everybody understand that? Yes or no? Okay, now let's purposely. This is why I'm kind of trying to go slow with this. All right. So we've got the loan of $100,000. Once again, we do it on our calculator, 12 payments per year. $100,000 is our present value. 10%, well, ultimately, right now, like I said, at 7, let's change it back to 10%, so I'm consistent with my handout. Okay? 10% is my interest rate. 30 years is my term. My monthly payment is $877.57. Okay. Everybody understands that? Yep. Now, what we've got to do at this particular point is we've got to figure out what the loan balance is going to be at the end of each month. Okay? But we're going to have to make some, we're going to have to use some if-then statements. Okay? All right. But let's just go ahead and do this just for a moment. Let's say that we want to, for our purposes, we want to find out what the balance is at the end of month 2. Okay? So we're going to do, we can either do 1 input 2 or 2 input 2 on the calculator. Okay? And then we're going to get the balance. Again, trust me, there's a method to my madness on this. Okay? Alright. Okay, so my balance on this is 99, 911, 15. Okay? Now, you're saying, well, wait a second, that's already here. Okay, it is. Okay, but I just want to, we're going to do 2 things. I just want to make sure that you see that. That's the balance. Okay, at the end of that second month. Now, what we want to do if the loan is prepaid in a particular month, what do we want to occur in terms of cash flows? If it's not prepaid in a month, the only cash flow is what? $877.57, yes? But if the loan is prepaid in that month, you're also going to have to add to that balance, or add to the payment, the balance.
But prepaid, you mean pay it off?
Yes.
Okay.
So, what I mean by that is that obviously for the second month, if we're assuming it's prepaid at the end of the second month, all right, then it's going to be basically $877 plus the $99, $11, $15. Adding those 2 together. Does that make sense? Okay, once again, let's keep this simple. You're getting a loan from me
Okay.
for $100,000, but you're paying me $4,000 up front. I'm dispersing to you $96,000.
Correct.
Okay. First month goes by, you pay me $877.57. Second month goes by, you also pay me $877.57, but you have decided I'm selling the property at the end of 2 months,
I'm paying
so
off.
therefore I've got to pay off the existing balance.
Right.
So you've got to add the outstanding balance to the payment. So that is how much you owe me at the end of 2 months.
Oh, adding to the 99,911.
The payment of $877.57.
Okay.
Okay? Now, what we want to be able to do, however, and this is where I'm getting with all of this, is we want to be able to calculate an effective cost of borrowing for every single month. Okay? And in order to do that, we've got to set up kind of the logic to be able to accomplish that. So, this effective cost of borrowing, in essence, is going to be an internal rate of return calculation. Okay? And so, if you're doing it on the calculator, it's going to be like 1 or 12 payments per year. And your initial cash outflow is going to be $96,000 as a negative cash flow, and then you're going to have income for that 1 month of $877.57 as the lender, and then you're going to have $100,788.73 as a cash flow. Okay, those are going to be your 3 cash flows for a 2-month holding period. Does that make sense? Then you are simply going to solve for internal rate of return on your calculator. So let's just see what that number is.
Real quick, the 100, 788, it's the 877.57 plus what?
Yeah, it's different.
The ending balance for that month.
990.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I did.
Why is mine not that?
Okay, so we do this. 96,000,
Number 583 here.
cash flow, 877.57, cash flow. 100, 788.73, cash flow. Solve for internal rate of return, 35.06%. So the lender, in this particular circumstance, made out like a bandit because basically they charged you so much up front for those loan origination fees, and those were effectively only amortized over 2 months. So from their standpoint, they're like loving it because their rate of return or your effective cost of borrowing for that 2-month period, 35.06%. Does that make sense? Yes or no? Okay, now. Okay. So we go over here now to this effective cost of borrowing column. And what we're going to do is replicate the logic that we just used here. Okay? And we're going to use the internal rate of return function. Okay? So we're going to do equal IRR, open parentheses, okay? And then it asks you for the values. So what I'm going to do, we're going to select those 3 values, comma, and then the guess, I'm just going to make it 0.01. And then I'm going to close the parentheses. Now before I hit enter, this is going to give me a monthly rate of return that we're going to have to change into an annual. So we're going to have to, just like we did last week, we're going to multiply it by 12. But before we do that, let's just go ahead and hit enter and just see what it gives us. Okay, 2.922. But once again, that is monthly. So if we go back in, and at the end of all of that, we simply do times 12. Boom, there we are. We matched up. 35.06. Do I see that? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. Now, before you copy it all the way down, we're going to think about this just for a second. If we were to just copy it down the way that we have it written, what is it going to do? It is going to just simply take blocks of 3 and copy them all the way down. Okay, we don't want that. We obviously want it to stick with this first number, but then the second number we want to copy down. Okay, let me show you what I'm talking about. You're basically going to take and make H16 a fixed cell reference. Okay, now you can copy down. Okay, so all we've got to do is just basically take that, copy down. But before we do that, let me just warn you. As you will take note on the handout, look at those crazy numbers in the effective cost of borrowing column. Okay, bunch of crazy numbers, yes? All of those numbers, listen to me, all of those numbers are meaningless except for the month in which the prepayment occurs. Okay? So, looking at the handout, which month does the prepayment occur?
15.
Month 15. Okay? And thus is the reason why you also happen to see the balance with whatever payment was being made in that month, obviously over here as part of the cash flow. Okay? So right now, what we're going to do, we can go ahead, copy this down all the way down the page, but the numbers are going to be meaningless. Let me just, make sure I'm clear about that. All right, so I'm just going to copy that all the way down. Okay, so those are gonna be all kind of, well, it's gonna be fixed at that point because of just what we've got. Okay, so we'll get back up here at the top. All right. And we actually, let me just see, we should be able to also just copy up one as well. Not that we need to, but I'm going to. Okay, and then make sure that one is correct in terms of what it's doing. Yep, okay. All right. Now,
I copied down and then got number error.
Make sure it's.
I got 35 first.
well, once again, okay, let's just take a look. Make sure that H16 is static before you copy it.
How did you get the minus one?
I just copied up one cell. Okay. All right.
I just brought it up.
Now,
You can drag it up.
okay, before we even get over into the other pieces, one of the things that we want to be able to do is to extract a particular cell within what is called an array, or basically in a list of numbers, or a column, okay? So this effective cost of borrowing is this number right there, okay, for this particular problem, all right? And it is, the prepayment occurred in month 2. So what we want to be able to do is we want to be able to go over and say, if it was prepaid in month 2, we want to pick month 2. Does that make sense? And then, so that we, in other words, the reason for that is we don't want to have to necessarily look through this whole freaking column of 360 different months. We want it to be able to populate it up here so we don't have to scroll down and see what that number is basically what it boils down to. Does that make sense? Okay? So, this is a function that you may or may not have ever seen before. It's called the index function. Okay? Equal. Index. Now read what it says. I mean, obviously whenever you can't quite read on the screen, but you can read on your screen. So after you type in equal index, it says returns a value or reference of the cell at the intersection of a particular row and column in a given range. Okay? Well, let's go ahead, open it up, and it's asking for, the first thing it's asking for is the array. Okay? The array is nothing more than simply this column of information. Okay? But here's what you're going to do. You're simply going to go over to that first cell, highlight it. So the first part of the array is I-17. Yes? Okay? And then you're going to copy down all the way to basically month 360. Now you can probably find quicker ways of doing it, and that's fine. Okay. Now, once you've got that, then you're going to do comma, and then ask you for the row number. Okay? So now here's where we're just going to kind of be careful, scroll all the way up to the top. And once again, we can hard code, but I can give you what the exact cell reference is. Okay, row number. All right? Well, the row number that we want is going to be when the loan is prepaid. Does that make sense? So in other words, row 2 is right here, meaning end of month 2. Does that make sense? So it's an easy thing. So in other words, okay, we have put in 2 here. You'll see what I mean in just a minute. Right now, trust me, okay? All right, so at this point, all we have to do, close that up. We don't have to put in any other information. Just close the parentheses, hit enter, okay? Boom. it kicks back that number. Now let's just here for a second, let's just play with this for a moment. So if we put in month 1, it returns the number that was there in month 1. Does that make sense? If you were to put in,
It's like a zoom in on it.
I'm sorry?
It's like a zoom in to one.
Yeah, it just zooms into that particular line of the array. So whatever number we put in, if we put in, 30, well, in this case, it is going down, even though the numbers are all the same. So obviously, it's not going to show what the difference is. But the point being is that once we get this fully built, it's going to pick the appropriate cell reference. Okay, does that make sense, everybody? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's kind of a cool little feature.
Yes.
So it doesn't highlight, like, if you're selecting number 2, where it
It
is.
doesn't highlight it, it just goes and grabs it. Is all it does. Grabs it and puts it in there. Okay? Now. All right. So let's go ahead and populate in some monthly administrative fees. So according to my little handout that I gave you, what I pre-selected was $35 a month. And we'll talk about those. And then the prepayment penalty is going to populate that of 4%. And then 15 is the prepayment. So I'm just putting in all the numbers as they are here on the handout for a second. All right, so let's first of all, let's talk about the administrative servicing fees. Once again, the class from this morning has already heard this. So the people that weren't in the class this morning, let me just talk about this for a second. Well, actually, let me do this. RJ, you were in the class this morning.
Yeah.
What are these sort of monthly administrative servicing fees?
Monthly administrative servicing fees. I guess if you not the words default, if you're late on a payment.
Okay, that's sort of one example of a servicing fee payment.
Depositing checks, something like that.
Okay, so it's the whole thing that whenever you write a check to your lender, they basically collect that check from a lockbox, they take that check, they basically enter it into their system, they upload it, they deposit it, they reconcile it. All of that is considered loan servicing, okay?
Fees associated.
It's just a fee associated with that. And some lenders are notorious for these sort of monthly processing or servicing fees. And it's just nothing more for them to make another few dollars off of your loan, okay? Does everybody understand that? So in our case, that $35 a month is simply going to be added to whatever our monthly payment is in terms of the cash flow. Does that make sense? Yes or no? Yes? Okay. So, just as an example, what's going to happen here, let's just take this one as a case in point. So that where it was just simply the scheduled payment, now it's going to be the scheduled payment plus that $35. But we don't want it to be, once again, we don't want it to be a dynamic cell reference, we want that to be static. So when we copy it down, it's going to stay fixed. Okay, that's what it is for that month. Now for this month, where the payoff is occurring, and we're going to be changing all this in a minute, but I just want to kind of illustrate the point. So this, we would be getting that $35 plus that, and we can make that fixed. Oops. Crap. Okay. Plus $35. Okay. All right, so the point being, now, with that inserted in both, I hard-coded it just for the moment because we're going to be destroying all of those formulas anyway to make it much more complicated, okay? So, right now, the simple version of just adding things together, this 912.57 represents what? It represents the monthly payment of $877.57 plus the $35 servicing fee. Does that make sense, everybody? Yes or no? Okay. The payoff amount here in month 2 represents $877.57 plus the $35 a month servicing fee plus the outstanding balance. Okay, so that's the reason the numbers here have changed. Well, and because those numbers have changed, so has our effective cost of borrowing. Okay, it's gone. Our effective cost of borrowing has gone up a little bit, not a lot, but a little. Okay, went from 35.06 to 35.496. Okay, as a result of basically that $35 a month extra charge. Everybody kosher with that?
Did your, yeah.
Okay. Yep.
You did the, to get the formula for the cell on top of it.
Okay, we're about to change it.
Oh, okay.
Yep, this was just to show you very simply how it works. It's just those 3 numbers added together. Okay? But we're about to change all that. All right? Now, what we need to do now is we need to be able to basically, for this column, for everything from month 1 all the way down to month 360, is we need Excel to apply a very simple logic assessment. Basically, what we need to say okay, let's think about what we need Excel to do for us. We need for that column, we need to be able to do the following. Basically, if this cell happens to be the month where the loan is paid off, so the question we need to ask is this the month where loan is paid off? And if the answer to that is yes, what do we want Excel to do?
Calculate our balance?
We want to basically add our payment plus our balance plus admin fee and prepayment
If there are.
if there are any. Okay? That's what we want to have happen in that cell if the answer to this question is yes. Does that make sense conceptually? If the answer to this question is no, what do we want in that cell?
All but the prepayment.
We want specifically to add together the payment with the administrative fee.
Well, if you're not closing the loan out, why do you have a fee to pay?
No, the administrative fee, the monthly administrative
Oh,
fee.
the month is $35.
Yep. So in other words, just to kind of keep things consistent, $877.57 plus whatever the balance is, 90-something thousand, administrative fee, $35, and prepayment penalty, we got to calculate that. But over here, once again, payment, $877.57 plus the $35 administrative fee. So that's what we need to set up for Excel to work with, okay? Does everybody follow? The question is, how do we do it? Well, with the if-then function, okay? So, do this. Go ahead and erase, basically, whoops, yellow. Those two cells, okay, basically H17 and 18, because we're going to replace all of that with new stuff.
Can you pull it down a little bit?
Oh, sorry.
Like I'm trying.
Okay. All right. So all I was saying, you missed on that, was getting rid of those two cells, okay? Because we're going to be using now an if-then statement to basically work through the logic train, okay? Okay. So, equal, if, open parentheses. Okay, so the first piece of this is the logic test. Well, what is the logic test? Is this the month where the loan is paid off? Okay, so how do we accomplish that? Okay, think for a second. What cell tells us where the loan is being paid off? Prepayment occurs at end of month 15, yes?
Yeah.
So that is this is the cell that tells us when the loan is being paid off. Yes?
Yeah.
Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go up here and we're going to say if D11 is equal to cell A17. Okay, everybody see what I'm doing? So if D11, the value there is 15, yes? The value in A17 is what? 1. So is the answer yes here? No, it's not. Okay? So that means that's not the month that the loan was paid off. So therefore, we're going to be doing only this over here. Does everybody follow that? Okay? But what we can do is we can go ahead and set up all of this now, and then we just copy down. Okay? So let's just sort of take this step by step. All right? So once we've got that, the logic test, and then what it says is, okay, you take a look at what it says to you on your screen after we do the equal, if the D11 equals A17, then it says, comma, value if true. That's what this stuff is, okay? Comma, otherwise it's false, meaning it goes to this. Okay, does that make sense? It's a simple decision tree. Yes, it does this. No, it does this. Okay? Does everybody follow? All right, now, so what do we want it to do? Okay, well, we've already said we basically want it to take the payment plus what? The balance plus admin fee.
Make it static.
We're going to make that static. We'll come back to fix that in a second. Plus the prepayment penalty. Okay, so now, how do we get the prepayment penalty?
4% of the ending balance?
Yes. Okay, so all you're going to do is you're going to take this, the ending balance, and multiply it by the 4%. Okay, so how do we do that? We probably, just to be safe, we'll put it in parentheses. So F17 times the prepayment penalty fee, close parentheses. Okay, so that is now the value if true. Okay, somebody follow that? Okay, so all we did was just add all that junk together. Now, comma. What do we do if it's false or if it's no? Then it's just the payment and just the administrative fee. So, very simple. We go over, we get the payment, we add to that the administrative fee, close the parentheses, and hit equal. And there we are. Okay? Now, hold on a second. Before we copy that down, let's take a look at it. Okay, so everybody, go ahead and type it in as we've got it there. And we're going to make 2 of those static cell references. Which ones?
D9.
Okay, D9 here is going to be a static cell reference, and D9 here, because we don't want those, obviously, pulling down. What about D10?
D10, yeah.
And D10 as well. So the D9, the D10, and the D9 all need to be static.
And the D11?
And yes. Thank you. Okay. So let's fix all of those. So the D11 is going to be static. The D9 is going to be static. The D10 is going to be static. And the D9 is going to be static. Okay, so that should be correct. So just look at it across the page there.
D10, right? What do I have, 11? Read the other one, what that is. I D10 for that.
Okay, we got it? Okay, so once you get that typed in,